Hi, my name is Bob Gilpin. I came out from Scotland with our family, mum and dad and siblings, and we grew up in Altona. And as migrants, it was a great place to grow up because it was really all Scottish, English, Irish, you name it, Italian, Finnish, and it was a fantastic place. As being young, the Altona Pier meant a lot to us because it was a beacon. It was the go-to. It was like a magnet where everyone went. We say we always meet you at the front of the pier, and then became a journey where we spent time at the pier, under the pier, jumping off the pier, fishing, and meeting all your mates and friends. And we went fishing. Not with much luck. On the way home, we used to always go to the fish and chip shop and get fish and kid on. We got a fish. It didn't go down too well with Mum, who had a laugh. But one of the things about Altona, also about the pier, it's obviously Pier Street is named after it. And I remember a lot of the old buildings there have now gone. There was a Red Robin factory at the end of the Pier Street next to Civic Parade, but Red Robin was a very good Australian brand, and they made singlets and shorts, and eventually went out of business. But there was a lot of Finnish. There was not a lot of Finnish, but there was a lot of Finnish people from Finland in the community who bought the old factory, and have made it into the Finnish Hall. And what they've done is actually given it back to the community with events. Dances. So the old factory is still there, and it looks fantastic because it's like an Art Deco building. The other old building that was in Pier Street was the press for and the stamping for the local paper, the Altona Star, and that was like an old Nissan hut, but that's disappeared 35 years ago. The other thing about the pier is just the beauty of it, the old pier, and I've taken a lot of photographs and recently had an exhibition with John and Rep, and the theme was about a journey across the bay. John's a very good painter and lived in the local area, and so we both had a lot in common. And our exhibition, was Journey Across the Bay. And I said, well, I've kind of journey across the ocean like a lot of people in Altona, in Seaholme, which is part of Altona. I've seen a lot of storms hit the pier and significantly got some old photo, well, not that old, but say from 5 years ago, that really damaged the pier badly. And a lot of driftwood and timber was washed up on the foreshore. The other thing about Altona was, because there was a lot of migrants, it was the old hostel, the Altona Hostel, then they didn't like Altona Hostel, Williamstown Hostel, and they ended up calling it Wiltona. But there was a lot of migrants came from Vietnam in the early 70s. They were more like refugees, and they did it very hard. But when they came down to Altona, it was a land of mussels. Everywhere you went in the pier, there was just loads and loads of mussels. Within about a year, they were all stripped. And then, not their fault, they really didn't know. So, but that was something that changed dramatically. The other thing they used to have in Altona, it started always at the pier, at the front of the pier, was Operation Recreation. A lot of people forget that, but it was about getting the community, it was usually held together on the long weekend, and it was the local schools, kids, scouts, and going floats, but it was all good fun, and it was like our own little Moomba. So it has a special place, and pardon me, the community is very strong, and it binds a lot of people. And in fact, the new pier has even strengthened that. It's amazing over the last 2 months the amount of people who are coming to the pier, not just from Altona, but it seems to have a much broader appeal to people, and it's a beautiful pier. But the old pier had a special light about it, the timber, and underneath the barnacles, and I did exhibit in my exhibition at Altona. And Altona was also, many people don't know this, but it was the first place in Australia where a guy called J.J. Hammond in the early 1900s flew the first commercial plane from Pier Street with paid passengers to Geelong, and the people came back to Altona near Pier Street. So there is a lot of history there, and people don't recognise that, or they forget about it. And of course Altona was named after a German city in Hamburg. And I always say to people, when the Beatles were in Hamburg, Altona is like a suburb of Hamburg. I always say to people, did you know the Beatles played in Altona? And of course they say, you got to be kidding, Bob. I said, no, have a look. I've got some old papers from Germany. Beatles play in Altona, Hamburg. I said, oh, well, you can have a hamburger with a lot. But anyway, so there's a strong connection with the German community, and there's still 25,000 tonnes of coal under Altona, and in recognition of the migrants, the Hartogs, I think that they were. But that's what I mean. There's a lot of hidden history. And of course they had the old magazine pier during World War I and World War II, where they used to ship all the ammunition into the magazine depot. And as kids we used to play in there, and when it was shut down, and we used to catch snakes, which was, you can't do that these days, and parents weren't too impressed neither. So the Altona has, in regards to bird life now, it's incredible. There's a lot of bird life coming from Japan, China, North America, as far as up to Alaska. They migrate here in the summer for food, and research has shown now that a lot of those birds are starting to stay in Altona, which is amazing, because now there's so much bird life in the western region, and Altona's a part of it. And I was looking at some research last year saying that if it keeps going this way, there'll be more birds in the western region, thanks to Altona and the western region, than there is in Kakadu, which speaks boundaries. Well, it speaks a lot for the development and focus on keeping the foreshore as part of our environment and how important it is to the whole community.
Hello, I'm Edna Migno. I was Edna Hammersley, grew up in Altona, virtually lived half our young lives at the Altona Pier, and can have lots of very, very happy memories jumping off into the little bit of surf that we had. It's when we didn't break our legs. And I remember a very terrible, sad incident, which one of the local boys, he'd only be a teenager, he was with a friend walking to the end of the pier. We came later, my girlfriends and I, walking along, and there he was trying to resuscitate a little girl around 4 years old who'd fallen off the end of the pier. And his name then was Lance Noonan. And he was a local boy, a lovely, lovely person. And he tried very, very hard. Her parents lived or owned a milk bar in the Altona across the road from the pier. And of course someone had to run all that way. We never had phones in those days, of course, so by the time they got to the parents rang the ambulance and they came back. The little girl had passed on. And I think it's sad that I've never ever heard his name mentioned, or he never seemed to have been awarded a medallion or accolades for the fact that at least he dived in, took off his clothes, dived in to try and save her. And that's a story that I've always remembered, and we were young teenagers. And the other story I've always remembered, we were in the Life-Saving Club, and I wasn't a very good swimmer myself, but I enjoyed the company of all the teenagers who were in it. We used to go to the Altona Park every Sunday and do our exercises and training there. Then we had to go to the end of the pier, rain, hail or shine, jump off and swim in. That was to strengthen our swimming lessons. And then my sister, she was a year younger than I, she jumped in and started screaming. She was drowning. So the boys all had to form some sort of a rope of men to get down, or boys to get down and get her out. And I always remember that. And we had wonderful memories of the pier and swimming around it and across the park. And also across from the pier we had a beautiful milk bar where we all met. They had a jukebox, and that's where we'd had our milkshakes over the weekend and all jived and danced and had a wonderful time. And that is my story of the Altona Pier and all the mussels. But no one in our day ever ate the mussels, so it was always all the pylons full of mussels. But till someone came along and decided they liked mussels, and the next thing it was all clear and the mussels were gone. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Rogers. I was Lorraine Hammersley and grew up in Altona until I got married. I think I was 21 and moved away to Hoppers Crossing, and I was very fortunate to get back about 14 years ago to Altona, so it's lovely. But the pier was always a special place. On hot days we would always head down to the pier because on the east side of the pier was lovely and clear, not so much seaweed, so it was wonderful to swim there. And on a really windy day the waves were lovely. I'd sort of body surf alongside the pier on the waves. I remember when I was maybe late primary school, I went down to the end of the pier. I wasn't supposed to, but jumped off. And we used to love to get right underneath the pier. And there was a young boy there, and he put his hand on my head and pushed me under and held me there. And I can remember my eyes bulging out of my head. I didn't think he was going to let me go, but he did. And then I can also remember boys chopping up the blue jellyfish on the pier one day and throwing them at everybody, and I got some on my chest, stung me. The fisherman on the end of the pier, our father was a bay fisherman, had his own little clinker boat, and we would always have a backyard full of fish. He would come home and spread the fish out on the back lawn. But so there was always fishermen at the end of the pier, and it was just a really special place. It was where you would sort of head to meet people, to enjoy the day, and then at the end of the day, being in the water and exhausting yourself, it was lovely to go over to the fish and chip shop, get your fish and chips, and go and over to the park and just lay down with your fish and chips in the sun. It was beautiful. That was a special time of the day. Yeah, so that's probably most of what I've got to say. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hawke, and I've lived locally for many years, and I've been down at the pier, I've jumped off it recently, I've been down there with friends. I used to go down there during high school and just sit on the pier, dangling my feet off, looking at things going by. And over the years, I'm now a writer, so I'd like to share with you an incident that happened down there back on March 1st, 2020. I'm going to read from a text as well, so we'll see how we go. Never ever let your children dig a hole deeper than what their foot can stand in. Seriously. I've just returned home from Altona Beach, right near the pier, where I helped save a 10-year-old's life. I was at Altona Beach this afternoon with my housemates to watch Janelle surf. I met up with Chris from Gordon, now a local. I was sitting on the cement strip beside the footpath in the shade of the pines, chatting and laughing. when Chris made comment about the girl digging in the sand near the bushes to the left of the pier looking seaward. I giggled, she's probably made it to China, then winced thinking of this COVID being flung around in the media. Chris said, maybe we should go check. Okay, I'll go. I went straight down towards the hole, twice the length of the little girl, and about 1 metre deep. I couldn't see her. I looked to the tent on the side. I couldn't see her. Then I looked back at the hole as I got nearer, and oh my goodness, all I could see was her little legs and her tiny little bottom. She had somehow dug deeper and deeper, forming a giant hole, and the sand had collapsed on her. Oh my goodness. She was buried, head under. I tried to pull her legs, not realising how heavy such a tiny body is. And then I bellowed 30 metres up the beach, Chris, Chris, flailing my arms in the air to tell all and everyone. Help, 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 waving my hands towards below where I stood. She ran up the beach, or down to the beach. I saw other people running. There were blokes, they were ultra strong. Chris was there first, that was good. She grabbed the girl's other leg with me. Wasn't happening. Do you know how heavy a little girl is? What an ordeal. The scooping, the endless scooping. It was to no avail. And then, after minutes and minutes and minutes, out she popped. All I can say is I saw her little face, purpley blue, swollen. The memory haunts me now and always will. Chris was at her side to double check for breathing, which she wasn't. By the time I'd moved round the girl and Chris said she had checked the airway and started compressions. 5 minutes on and this precious little girl come back to life. I couldn't believe it. All of this had happened so fast. Everyone on site did amazing things. We all come together so fast to ensure she survived. From the woman on the side who called the ambulance to Janelle dashing up the beach from out being surfing, the lifesavers, the ambulance offers, the fire brigade that happened to be one of the little girl's dads, the bystanders whom stood back out of the way, everyone whom approached me after it to check if I was okay. We all helped. It was a team effort. So that's the kind of thing that can happen at the beach on just a hot summer's day. Thank you very much for taking the time. Bye.
G'day, I'm John Anrup. I was born in Altona at the hospital and spent most of my young life around Laverton and Altona. The pier has always been part of our life. We probably used to walk on the pier every week when I was a toddler, and I got the sniff of salt water and sea air, and it set me on my way. And I've been living near the water or in the water for nearly all my life. When I was a teenager, I went to school in Geelong, and that's where I got into surfing. And it's through that surfing that I had this funny relationship with the pier, because even though I was working in the city in Melbourne, there'd be days where I'd just feel like going for a surf, and being so far away from the coast, I'd wait for a 40 knot southwesterly to come through, and all the chop would hit the pier and straighten out a bit. So if you were that desperate for a surf, you'd go out and jump off the end of the pier with your board, paddle around and grab a couple of really sloppy waves, but hey, it was still better than nothing. The only problem was the onshore breeze would just sting your eyes so much, so you end up learning to wear goggles. The pier has always been a great part of Altona. It's sort of a bit of a worry when they decided to get rid of it and bring in the new pier, but I think the new one has actually probably gone to another level, and I just really feel like it's always been one of the beautiful things about Altona. You know, so many people for so many years have been worried about all the industry and refineries and just Croy Creek Road, all the pollution that comes out of there. But then you go down the foreshore and you see the pier and you go, wow, I'm somewhere else. And that's why I love the pier. And should get down there. All right, thanks.
Hi, my name's Sally Bilbao, and my memories of the pier are quite short actually, because I used to live in the eastern suburbs, and when my son moved to Altona from the eastern suburbs, that's when we came down to look after the grandchildren. And my memories are, on a Tuesday we used to pick up our granddaughter and walk from his house to the market and buy a few things at Altona Market and go to the pier, go to the beach, have a swim, have a play on the steps where the pier touched the sand. And my granddaughter just loved it. My dog also loved it. He was on a lead, of course. When it got too hot, we would go to the cafes and buy ice creams or lunch or something. And if it was really hot, we would go to the park and sit under the shade of a tree. My grandchild would play in the gardens, and after lunch we'd probably have a little siesta and then go back to the beach before returning home to my son's house for a sleep. That's when I rested too. Other memories? Well, I don't know that I've got too many more memories, only that I thought that the beach was really big and the pier was gorgeous. It was a big brown structure and it looked old. I thought that mermaids should be on the beach with their combs and shells around them and seaweed around them. I used to make up stories with my grandchild and tell them about the ships coming in and the mermaids sat on the beach waiting for the ships, and have lovely stories like that. I guess in the end, my husband and I got tired of coming over the bridge from the eastern suburbs and we decided to move down here ourselves. So here we are, living in the western suburbs, which we really love. We should have done it many, many years ago.